Tonight, faith and fears.
Everyone was asked to receive communion on the hand.
The risk of SARS forces Canadian churches to modify Easter services. What could it be? New video suggests Saddam may have survived that massive bombing 11 days ago. And tales from the speed trap.
We think that you ought to slow down.
In Summersville, West Virginia, they're desperately seeking citations.
You've got a better chance of getting a ticket here than anywhere else on the continent.
Buckle up with Tom Alderman and find out why.
The National. From the Canadian...
We'll be back in a moment with this story.
1/3 of the revenue for Summersville comes from speeding tickets.
The highway drivers hate. Tom Alderman hits the road for Tales from the Speed Trap. Ever get a speeding ticket you didn't think you deserved? Well, this is a story for you. It's about Summersville, West Virginia, a town that likes life in the slow lane. So much so, it's known as the Speed Trap of North America, handing out thousands of tickets a year, many of them to Canadians. And that's got the attention of the CAA. Tom Alderman hit the road to check it out.
For Canadians, there is one big bump on the road to a late winter respite in the U.S. South. And it's here, amid the rolling hills of the Appalachians, where the local law patrols its turf rigorously, assiduously, unrelentingly. Though they don't target Canadians specifically. No. They'll write speeding tickets to anyone passing through.
Hey there, man. Have your operator's registration there? Okay.
Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. Here being an otherwise tranquil little community of 3,000 or so souls, nestled alongside a roadway, very popular with thousands of Canadians traveling back and forth on Florida vacations. Alas, many of them don't make it quite through this town unscathed. Visitors here were dinged for 12,000 speeding tickets last year, a remarkable number for such a short stretch of road. So if you feel obliged to annoy some place as speed trap capital of North America, you might wish to consider Summersville, West Virginia. It's been around since before the Civil War, when it was partly torched by the Union forces. And though times have been tough since the state's coal mining pooped out, the downtown still retains a quiet, faded grandeur. The big action is on the outskirts, where the four-lane Highway 19 induces drivers to zip by on their way to someplace more exciting, but at an unrealistic 50, please.
It was well highlighted that what the speed limit was. There were signs, there were flashing lights, there was everything. And I believe that I was keeping within the speed limit.
Prudent Canadian drivers who haven't had a ticket in decades bafflingly get one in West Virginia, like retired accountant Jim Somerville. $129 U.S.
I was pulled over by the police just behind me, and I was told that I was speeding. I asked where. He said coming down that hill, and I got a ticket for I think 60 miles per hour.
In a 5-mile stretch, there are often 2, 3, 4 cruisers on alert. So law-abiding Canadians like David King determined to obey the speed limit to the letter.
I remember seeing the speed limit that now said 50. I said to myself, I'm going to put my speed control on. And so when I started up and I got to 80 kilometers, which was 60, I put speed limit or speed control on and proceeded to drive cautiously.
A lot of good it did them.
Cars coming in the opposite direction, flashers come on, comes across the median, turns around and comes after me. I'm the only car on the road, but he pulled in behind. came up to the window and commented on the fact that, did I know, that I had been speeding? And I said, well, actually, no, I haven't been speeding. And he said, yes, you were doing 61 in a 60-mile zone.
There's about 7 million cars pass through this road every year. We're a little town of 3,000 people.
Don't tell Summersville Mayor Stan Atkins his town is a speed trap. Those are safety patrols out there. There have been fatal accidents in the past, and the locals wanted something done, so the limit was dropped from 65 to 50, and, surprise, ticket revenue jumped. Merely a collateral effect.
We have our officers out there, and if you're going down through there and you're going 12 miles an hour over our speed limit, and you're going to run over my mother, or my cousin, or locals, or another Canadian, we think that you ought to slow down.
At the Canadian Automobile Association, they've built up a nice little dossier on Summersville. Over the past decade, the CAA has heard lots of sad songs about the town, says Michael Bouchain with some delicacy.
Well, we believe that CAA members may be getting traffic tickets that they do not deserve. In fact, many of our members say that their cruise control was set at the speed limit when they were pulled over and given a ticket.
Agreed, speeders tend to minimize their lead-footedness, but too many similar stories suggest a revenue grab. So even though the Summersville route clips 80, 90 miles off the trip to Florida, the CAA advises taking the longer way around. Less scenic, but also less aggravation.
I think that the issue here is that there is a lot of coincidence. Many of our members who have no relation to one another, who live in different parts of Ontario, have came to us with very similar stories. And until we get these coincidences cleared up, we're going to continue to redirect our members around the town of Summersville in West Virginia.
The Canadian Automobile Association could have said, listen, travelers, Canadians, they say there's 1 million members in the CAA. This is a nice little shortcut here. These are wonderful people. They're friendly. They like to sell you some gas. They like to sell you a hamburger, shake your hand, wear your hat. But they do ask one thing. They do ask one thing. At least stay inside of their speed limit. It says 50. I'll tell you right now, we don't even write tickets to you. There's no fine from 50 to 60. If you're going 61, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you're breaking our law.
The Canadian Automobile Association, based on the number of trip tickets it sends out, has estimated that there are 10,000 Canadian trips through West Virginia every year. Now, last year, on this stretch of road, Canadians got 1,000 speeding tickets, 1 out of 10, which suggests that, on a percentage basis, you've got a better chance of getting a ticket here than anywhere else on the continent. Summersville is so infamous, it's even got a website devoted to its practices, hosted by Mike Mullen of Ohio, who was so outraged by his ticket that he has tracked the town's tactics ever since and collected several hundred emailed tales of woe from other hapless travelers. To Mullen, this town is the real evil empire.
Summersville has a police department that's at least 3 times the size of most other cities in West Virginia. They burn through. They have a force of approximately 18. The police force, in my opinion, just exists. A portion of it exists to write tickets to enhance the revenue of the city. 1/3 of the revenue for Summersville comes from speeding tickets.
Well, most of the locals don't mind that at all. When you collect more than $1 million a year in fines, it sure helps keep taxes down. Besides, they've learned to absolutely creep along Highway 19. So why can't you?
It's not a speed trap. It couldn't be a speed trap. Back when they opened 19, back in the mid-80s, we had 1 fatality per month. That's 12 a year. And the only answer we had here in Summersville was to try to slow the traffic down, to keep it 60 and under, to make it safe for our citizens here in Summersville to travel 19, because we're always on 19 anywhere we go.
I think if the people from Canada feel that they're being unfairly prosecuted, then they need to do what the people in West Virginia and the people of Summersville and the people of Nicholas County do, and that's obey the posted speed limits.
The trouble is, Highway 19 looks and feels like a major highway, despite several lights along the Summersville stretch. Travelers just off the interstate are looking for a place to eat or sleep and may miss a sign or two. One moment of inattention and the law is all over you. You got a problem with that? Blame the state, says Mayor Atkins.
The state of West Virginia owns that highway. They determine that they determine the speed limit. They're the ones that puts the signs out there, not us.
Well, not quite. In the state capital, Charleston, the head traffic engineer says traffic lights solved the safety issue a few years ago.
The true problems associated with the safety aspect, the accidents and so forth, were being addressed by the traffic signals.
Barry Warhoftig says the speed limit of 19 could easily be raised without compromising safety. But the state doesn't like to mandate speeds without a town's okay, and Summersville hasn't shown it's partial to that.
There was a big group of people who wanted, elected officials and others, wanted down 45 or 40. Our studies kept on showing there would be no dramatic change if we put it in the 55 or 60 range.
Not all the locals are gung-ho for 50. Tourist operators are hurting, and they ruefully celebrate the town's bad rep with a bumper sticker, which causes much sniping between the opposing camps, says Skip Heater, a leader of the anti-50 contingent who has collected 2 tickets.
Hey, I've got to bother because, one, our business as far as rafting and restaurant, camping, and cabin rentals depends on the traveling public. And when we have as many people as we do that are upset traveling through here that complain about, they all have the same thing in common, which is Summersville as being a speed trap. And when I have people show up here at my rafting facility to tell me that they have just got a ticket and they've basically been referred not to go rafting because of things that we're doing here which are not truthful, that has been told to them by an officer who's pulled them over, it hurts the whole area.
And it has hurt. Most states know about Summersville already. Now, the CAA has issued its advisory, carefully avoiding the term speed trap, but referring to excessive police action on Highway 19, a word that drives the mayor wild.
I don't want the reputation as being a speed, well, not a speed trap. I don't even want the reputation of what the Canadian Automobile Association says is excessive. You know, what did they do? What research did they do to make that choice? You know what? I think drinking in Canada is excessive. I think snow in Canada is excessive. You know, I can pick out lots of things that I say, you know what? I think rain in Summersville is excessive, don't you? You've been here 2 days, it's flooding. I think that the ice, we had an inch of it all over this place. I think that's excessive.
So take that, CAA and Michael Beauchesne.
Here's the bottom line. We want our members to have a safe trip. We want them to arrive at their destination safely. We want them to have a pleasurable driving experience. We want them to enjoy the scenery that West Virginia has to offer. But that scenery shouldn't include a police officer handing an undeserved ticket through the car window.
It's not that the cops here have quotas, heavens no, but there are expectations on what each shift will bring, particularly around now. Lots of pale Canadians, glassy-eyed with the effort of getting to Florida. And a man with a job to do doesn't like to disappoint, especially when he compares his total to that golden year, 2001, when the boys dispensed an all-time record 18,000 tickets. Indeed, the 2 best ticketers were picked up by other nearby towns seeking to emulate Summersville's success. It was like losing Gretzky and Lemieux in one season. Canadian Gary Hamblin and his son Todd suspect it might even have been Summersville's Gretzky who hooked them. Most Canadians, fearful of vague consequences, pay up once they get home. But Hamblin was so incensed, he decided to do a background check on Summersville.
I called Charleston Tourist Department and told them my problem, who then transferred me over to the state troopers in the state capital of Charleston, who told me that the town of Summersville writes out more tickets than the state capital. And I told him what had happened and coming down, and he started to laugh and said, you got a citation. I said, yep. Now what can you do to help me out? I said. He said, well, we don't have an agreement with you people. He said, we won't honor their ticket. He said, I just suggest that you forget about it, not pay it, and if it comes through our office to forward up to Canada, he says, we just don't do it.
So if you get a ticket, let your conscience be your guide. There's no agreement between West Virginia and the provinces to honor each other's tickets. Your auto insurance company will probably never know that you got blindsided in Summersville. If you don't pay up, though, it may be wise not to drive through the meanest town in America ever again. For The National, I'm Tom Alderman in Summersville, West Virginia.
We have to take a short break, but first, here's how you can reach us.